So we are on our penultimate speaker, who is going to be John Moriarty. John is a senior interaction design lead at Fjord in the Dock in Dublin, and he is passionate about simplifying the complex and creating experiences that make people smile. Welcome, John.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much. So I'm John. I'm, as Jen mentioned, I'm also an interaction service digital product / visual designer at Dublin. So it's not very elegant, but it's kind of more descriptive of what I do day to day. And I work at the Dock, where we work at this messy intersection of people and emerging technology. And we've been here for about 2 years doing this, and we've learned a few lessons along the way. And this is a few reflections on some of those lessons that I've learned from projects. This is not the first time we've seen him tonight. I think it's the third Trump count I've seen. And basically, as a designer, it feels like we're in this kind of messy world at the moment, right? Not just generally with this guy, but as a designer, it feels like a pretty messy world today, and a pretty confusing place. And in the Dock, the projects that we work on, because they sit at that intersection of this emerging technology and where that meets people, space, it can get pretty confusing. So our projects typically start in this really messy, not really having a clue what's going on kind of space. I came in with this vision that I'd be sitting around drinking flat whites all day, musing about the future. But the reality is much more like this. It's a hot mess of ideas, some well-defined, mostly not, and it's our job to unpack them and to figure out what the hell they might mean. And then, meanwhile, what else is going on in the industry is that we've got this massive fragmentation of what the hell we call ourselves and what we define ourselves as, and we kind of constantly struggle to, are we UX designers, interaction designers, what the hell is going on? Are we all these things? And if we look at what's happening more broadly, design is kind of moving from this kind of, craft space much more up to the upper end of the spectrum to cover much more strategy. And so we're covering much more breadth within this spectrum. And so there's a lot more expectation on designers to represent there. And then in tandem with this, you've got every week, every day, there's another tool that's released, and there's some new software, some new technology we are expected to be experts of. And I think we can all relate. We've probably got a few of these on our to-do list, and we're feeling a bit mildly stressed about this. And that's because, as Matthew Bishop says, the pace of change is never going to be as slow as it is today. So there's this massive acceleration of change, and as designers, we're seeing that day to day. And then that's not helped by the media, which is telling us that our jobs are going to be, we're all going to be out of work. So am I saying we're all fucked? No, I'm not. I'm saying that we need to understand why this is the case, and we need to understand what it is that makes designers valuable, and we need to focus on that. And I think there's a few things that entails. So broadly speaking, I think it means we need to wing it. That's our role as designers, and that's where we work really well. And by winging it, I mean we need to embody a few core traits. So the first of those is optimism. I was really hoping that would work. The first of these is optimism. So as designers, we have this role where we get to paint a potential future vision of what could be. And if we were to look at the reality of what the world actually is we would never get out of bed in the morning. So let's make that an optimistic one. And then in tandem with that, we've got curiosity. We've got to be curious. As Bill Gates says, it is a phenomenal time to be curious. There's the barriers to access and to creating new things and new experiences have never been lower. And it's an amazing way to do that. And then persistence. So we've got to persist. We've got to actually keep on pushing through. We've got to push the ideas forward. And I love this quote by Eric Schmidt, so he looks at curiosity and persistence as the two key qualities for what makes great employees. And I think that's really strong. And then on top of that, we've got to be adaptable. So the moment we think we have it all sorted and it's all figured out, I think we're dead, right? So we've got to stay adaptable. We've got to keep our eyes open to change. And we've got to be willing to change it all up. And the jobs we have today probably won't exist in 10 years' time, much like many of them didn't exist 10 years ago. And then on top of that, we've got to be brave. We've got to step forward. We've got to jump into the deep end, into the unknown. We've got to take on things we're not comfortable with. And I love this Ed Catmull quote from Pixar. There's nothing like the need to succeed and naivety to force rapid learning, or ignorance to force rapid learning. And then discomfort. We've got to push ourselves into uncomfortable places and keep ourselves there. So the moment we think, like I said, we've got it all sorted, we're dead. So we've got to, if like Kevin Barry says, if you're full of doubt and anxiety, you're doing something right. So if anyone's feeling that way, it's okay. And if you're feeling comfortable, you should probably change things up. So my hypothesis is if we focus on these and don't worry about all these tools and all these new technologies and all these crazy things that are coming that are only going to accelerate, we'll be okay. And looking ahead, then that will give us the ability to be really good creative problem solvers. And everything else is just technical. We'll figure it out when we need to. But if we just kind of get the basics right, we'll be okay. Thank you very much.